Once again, thank you for that free exchange. As we can see from the questions posed to the panel, there are no easy matters. These are not easy matters to discuss for multiple reasons. That is why it is so vital that we fully engage ourselves in this topic, to ask ourselves this question: if not us, who? Our next presenter is Stephanie Packer, wife, mother of 4, former youth minister, and faithful Catholic facing a terminal illness with faith and courage. Please welcome Stephanie Packer as she shares her story.
Thank you. First, thank you. I wanted to thank you all for being here this afternoon, for making this important, for being here. This is something hard to talk about, something hard to listen to, and it touches me deeply that you would all take time on a weekend to be here. Like they said, my name is Stephanie Packer. I have a wonderful husband and 4 kids. They are 11, 10, 8, and 5, and they've been calling me all day, wanting to know what snacks we've had here. That was very important. And asked me to bring them grapes home. And we've had a long journey together, and they've been wonderful through it all. After I had my oldest daughter, I became pretty sick. I was experiencing a lot of pain off and on and swelling. So my doctor sent me to a rheumatologist to get some blood work done, and they called me back and said that they thought I had lupus, which was an autoimmune illness, and told me to take some steroids and some other medications to slow down, to suppress my immune system. And took those for a while, and didn't help me much. The pain continued, the swelling continued, and they assured me that that was just the nature of lupus, and that's what was going to continue for the rest of my life, and that if I just continued to take the medication, I would get better and get used to the way my life was going to be, and that maybe with some therapy, I would start to feel better about my life. And I was not about to do that because I wasn't crazy. So I continued working at a lumber yard at that time, and the Crystal Cathedral, actually. I was working daycare and some cheerleading camps at that time there. That was kind of interesting. And I started getting worse and saw some other doctors who were very upset at how much medication I was on, told me that the medication was making me sick. I should stop taking the medicine. Really encouraged me to see a therapist because they were certain that it was all in my head and that I probably didn't have lupus, but I was really stressed out, and that was what was making me sick. And my husband didn't think that was right, so sent me to a different doctor who wanted to run some more tests. They told me I had lupus and I should take different medicine. And that was getting more and more frustrating, so I spent a lot of time in bed just laying down in pain, and that's how my life went for quite a few years. And in 2011, 2012, I got bronchitis 10 times over and over and over again until spring of 2012, I got pneumonia and couldn't walk more than about 30 or 40 feet without passing out. And finally, my husband took me over to St. Joseph's Hospital. And I was walking back from the restroom, and I passed out again and hit my head. And they put me back in the bed and put the leads on my chest. And my heart rate was through the roof. And the doctor said, you know, I'm not so concerned about the pneumonia. We can treat the pneumonia, but I'm really concerned about how high your heart rate is. We need to find out what's going on with your heart. So he sent me to a different hospital. And there I met the doctor who is now the most wonderful man in my world, aside from my husband and Jesus. He came into the room that night with a very angry look on his face and kind of let me have it. He was very frustrated and couldn't figure out why I had not advocated for myself. And he wanted to know how I could have been so sick for so long and didn't see somebody else and didn't ask them more questions and didn't do something else. And I told him, I said, well, I saw a doctor 10 times, and he told me I had asthma and bronchitis, and he gave me medicine and sent me home. I saw a doctor. You know, doctors know what they're talking about, and he gave me medicine, and I took it, and I went home. And he scolded me for quite a while and told me that I had something called scleroderma with pulmonary fibrosis and end-stage lung disease, and that I had about 3 years to live. And then started talking to me about treatment and left the room and sent somebody else in the room to start treating me. And that was the end of that conversation. And things just kind of carried on. And that was it. That was kind of how they told me what was going to happen. And we didn't really discuss anything further about it. I went home, and the next night I looked at my husband and asked him, I said, did you hear what the doctor said? He says, yes. He said, do you want to talk about it? I said, nope. He said, okay, let me know when you want to talk. And we didn't talk about it at all for about a month. And every once in a while after that, I would wake him up about 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm that wife. I don't talk during the day. I talk in the middle of the night. And I would kick him under the covers, and I would worry about, I think the first thing I worried about was who was next. So I woke him up in the middle of the night, and I told him, I think you should marry Amanda after I die. He said, what? And I said, you know, she hasn't had a boyfriend yet. You should marry Amanda. She'll be good to the kids. And that was a long conversation that night. And then I called Amanda the next day and informed her, and she wasn't sure about that either. And, you know, things like that bothered me. It was really random things that I was concerned about first. The big stuff came months later. And that doctor he was pretty amazing. He was angry. He was angry that I didn't know how to have a voice. I was just doing whatever those doctors told me. I knew that something was wrong with me for a very long time, but I didn't know how to fight for that. I didn't know how to ask the right questions or do anything for myself. And he was so angry about that. And it hurt him because he was afraid for me. He knew what my future was going to be, and it hurt him. And I absolutely love him for that. And he's my doctor now. He's my pulmonologist. And his very good friend is now my rheumatologist, who, by the way, does not believe in treating my disease. There's no cure for my disease. His initial plan was just to give me pain medicine and let me live whatever time I have left with my children and have that be it. But he knows that I wanted to treat aggressively to prolong my time with my kids. So he sent me to a world-renowned scleroderma specialist over at UCLA, and we map out a plan for treatment, and then he sends me back to my doctor, and my doctor will carry out that plan because he would like to do whatever it is I want to do, and he respects that. And I trust that my doctors know exactly what I want to do, and they have care and concern for me, and they want to help me. And that is a beautiful, wonderful relationship we have together. But it took time for us to get there. And it was a hard process because during that time at the hospital, in that very abrupt conversation we had, he also told me that after I left the hospital, I had to stop my work that I put everything into. That was part of who I was. It was part of my family's identity. You know, my kids were part of our ministry. That was what we did together, and it was heartbreaking. So I had to figure out how to leave the ministry, and that was so sad for us. And our community supported us through that, but it was still heartbreaking. And by the way, this was also fun to deal with. When I had to gather all of our medical documents to file for disability, interesting, by the way, reading what doctors say about you after you leave the room, that's fun. I recommend doing that. It's kind of entertaining. So I'm going through all the paperwork, reading this. I get my old paperwork from 2004, when I was diagnosed with lupus. At the very bottom it says scleroderma. I was diagnosed with scleroderma in 2004. My doctors never told me. I got on the phone. I asked him, why does it say in my paperwork I have scleroderma? He says, oh, don't worry about it. It's the same thing as lupus. We treat it the same way. It is a very different thing. I could have started treating this disease years ago. Maybe my life would have been different. That was a tough pill to swallow. Now, I personally believe that God has a very specific plan for my life, and this was part of his plan. But it took my heart a long time to get there. So that was rough. Doctors don't always know. And scleroderma is not a well-known disease for a lot of doctors. I get that too. So I do work very hard now to spread awareness so that more doctors and more people can know more about the disease, but it was difficult. I have learned a lot on my journey. Having a terminal illness can be all-consuming. You know, a lot of advocates for this bill make it seem like this is the only option, is for patients to take this poison and make everything go away. But I've learned that there's a lot of beauty on this journey. My kids have become amazing people because of my illness. They have so much love and empathy. I look at them and I am so proud of who they're becoming because of what they've seen and what they've had to experience. And I'm very sad that they've had to see and experience what they've had to. But I am so proud of who they are. You know, they are people of action. And there's a teacher at their school, and her son is fighting leukemia. And as soon as they found out, they immediately wanted to do things for him, and they wanted to raise money for his family, and they wanted to be there for him, and they were so sad for him, and it moved them, and they feel things in such a special way. And I'm really proud to be their mom. And when they pray, they don't pray for me. They pray for other people. They pray that other people are happy. And they pray for other families. It's wonderful. And they wouldn't be this way if it weren't for my illness. Illness can be beautiful. I see things and I appreciate things more than I ever would have. We all have crosses to bear. All of us. We all experience pain. And it's what we choose to do with our cross that makes us who we are. You know, none of us get to just get out of things. We don't get to leave our burdens behind. We should embrace them and carry them with grace. That's what I want to do with mine. And if you find joy in your life with your burdens, then you see the world around you differently. It makes life exciting. I choose to appreciate my world. It makes everything better. And I'm not saying I don't have bad days. I have a lot of bad days. But I have amazing people around me that make the bad days better. And they come out in surprising ways and in the best moments. There are people in this room that are part of my faith family, and they have no idea how much they've touched my life. And they come across in the perfect moment, right when I need them, and I don't even have to ask. And it's like they saved my life. You know, and people talk about this bill, and they say, what about the people that don't have the support? They don't have family, or they don't have a faith community, or they don't have close friends. Then I say that they don't have the right tools. But there are resources to give them the tools. And that's what we need. We need the doctors to give them the right resources. We need the information to get out there better. We don't need bills like this. We need better information. It is out there. When people are threatening to commit suicide. We don't give them the tools to kill themselves. We give them the help to deal with their circumstance. That's what we're supposed to do. We help the people around us. This bill is sad. It is dangerous. It's the wrong answer. It's on the bill. I was interrupted a few times, so I'm not sure if this was addressed or not, but I'm not sure if everyone realizes once someone takes their life using this bill, the cause of death is listed as the person's underlying illness. When I die, my death certificate is not going to say scleroderma. When I die, it's going to be because my lungs gave out. I'm going to suffocate, and my heart's going to stop, and it's going to be a heart attack and something quite horrible. It's not going to say scleroderma. That would be a lie. It would be falsifying a legal document. But apparently, with this bill, that would be okay. That's wrong. It's sad. With this bill, unused medication just gets someone in the family or a friend is designated to dispose of it. There's nothing written. There's no secure method. It's just designated that someone disposes of it. This is lethal medication. The chances of this ending up in somebody else's hands, where kids or people that don't know what it is can get a hold of it, this is so irresponsible. This is deadly medication. I have such a hard time getting rid of unused medication that I have. It is dangerous. There are plenty of people. There's nothing saying that people who get this medication have to use it. They can hang on to it and never use it. And then what happens to it? This is dangerous. People talk about this bill and say that they need it because they have pain that is uncontrolled. One of my conditions is called trigeminal neuralgia. There are only 45,000 documented cases in the United States of this. It is also known as the suicide disease. How is it worded? It is the most unbearable pain known to medical practice. And half of the patients that have this condition for more than 3 years commit suicide. So when they talk about pain, I absolutely know what pain is. And I've had it for about 3.5 years. The pain, once it comes, once, it comes about 5 or 6 more times within an hour. And it's in your face. There's these nerves over by my ears, and it sends electric shocks in my face. And the first time it happened, I was in a grocery store, and I thought someone shot me, and it kind of laid me out on the floor, and it's pretty embarrassing. I think my kids were more embarrassed than I was, because I screamed and fell to the floor like someone shot me, and was pretty embarrassed. So I grabbed them and we just left. called my husband crying and said, I think someone shot me. And then I had to call the doctor and figure out what happened. And it'll happen more frequently as I get older. And I can't take pain medicine for it. It comes too fast. Pain medicine doesn't hit fast enough for me to take anything for it. So I get it. You know, when I talk to people that are for this bill, I get it. You don't take your life. You know, we were born naturally. We should let our bodies shut down naturally. Insurance companies will always fight for the cheapest option. I think it's disgusting when we see in the states that have legalized this, where they're denying treatments for patients that are fighting for their lives. And then they suggest these $100 poisons for people to take their lives. It's just horrible. I was watching a news conference where the O.J. Brigance was speaking. He's an ALS fighter. He's a former Ravens football player. And he said, I didn't create my life, so I have no right to negate it. I think that's beautiful and perfect. What right do we have to take something away that we didn't create? We don't own our bodies. We've been gifted them. I think, I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. I just, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I just wanted to say that, I'm sorry, I am wrapping up, but for me, I just wanted to say that there isn't dignity in taking your own life. There's dignity in living it and dying with grace. Thank you.
For me, the two things were takeaway. First one was, Stephanie, after listening to your witness, illness most definitely can be beautiful. That's where you applaud. The second point was, and I don't speak about this much publicly, but as the spouse of a chronically ill person, I can tell you that I've been on the receiving end of that middle of the night conversation about who your new spouse is going to be. I don't know about in your case, but in my case, she does not pick well. All right, palliative care. Boy, that's a big, clunky word. And what does it mean? Here to share with us on this topic is Dr. Vincent Wynn, MD, Director of Palliative Care Services at Hoag Hospital. Dr. Wynn is a board-certified hospice and palliative care specialist with board certification in geriatrics.